It was nearly 2 a.m. when Jack Mercer's phone began to vibrate on the small, scratched nightstand beside the worn-out couch he now called a bed. He stirred beneath a thin fleece blanket, groggy, his shoulders stiff from another night of trying to sleep on springs that poked him through the old cushions. His hand fumbled for the phone in the dark. The apartment was still, quiet. The hum of the refrigerator and the ticking wall clock were the only signs of life, aside from the gentle, steady breathing of his daughter, Ellie. Coming from the room next to the kitchenette, Jack blinked at the bright screen. Emergency, electrical repair request, Olivia Marlowe. He hadn't heard the name before, but the job was routed through the 24-hour call system he'd signed up for with a local contractor network, an app that pinged electricians willing to work graveyard hours. Jack had requested every shift. The middle of the night? Fine. The worst neighborhoods? Fine. Frozen circuits, flooded basements, barking dogs? Fine. He had bills to pay, more than bills, a daughter to feed. And rent. Always rent. He swiped to accept the call. Jack Mercer, he said, voice dry from sleep. You got a problem? A woman answered, her voice crisp and steady. Not panicked, but purposeful. Yes. The west wing of my house lost power. Lights. Keep flickering. There's a child here. I need it fixed immediately. Jack was already swinging his legs off the couch, pulling on jeans and reaching for his tool bag. Address? 73 Crescent Hill Road. He paused. Crescent Hill. He rubbed his eyes. The one up off Marion Ridge? That Crescent Hill? Yes. Jack hesitated, blinking away the remnants of sleep. That was the part of town with security gates and lawn sculptures, private tennis courts and elevators in the foyers. He'd never been past the security gate, much less inside a house there, but money was money, and power problems didn't care if you lived in a shoebox or a mansion. I'll be there in 20, he said, already sliding his boots on. The hallway creaked as he passed Ellie's door. He stopped for just a second, listening. She was fast, asleep. Her room was still full of hand-me-down furniture and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. A used nightlight from the thrift store blinked softly near her bed. Back soon, baby girl, he whispered. He grabbed his keys and slipped into the night. The road up to Crescent Hill twisted like a snake through tall pines. His truck rattled. Over the cracks in the asphalt, the engine hiccuping whenever he pushed too hard. Streetlights became fewer, then disappeared entirely. Finally, the massive gates loomed ahead. Iron, polished, cameras at every corner. He pulled up slowly. A red light blinked above his windshield. A voice crackled through a speaker. Identification? Jack Mercer, electrical repair, emergency call, Olivia Marlowe. A pause. The red light turned green, and the gates opened silently. He let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. As he climbed the hill, the houses grew larger. Not just houses, estates. Stone and glass, manicured hedges shaped like animals, driveways wide enough to park a fleet of trucks. His headlights reflected off bronze plaques and black sports cars. And then, at the top of the hill, he saw it. The house was massive. 3 stories, white columns stretching to the roof, dark windows glowing faintly from within. The lawn rolled like a green ocean, neatly cut, symmetrical. There was a fountain in the center of the roundabout driveway, water still flowing even at this hour. He parked near the side entrance. Before he could knock, the door opened. She was there, barefoot, silk pajama pants, soft sweater that hugged her, arms, no makeup. Her hair was tousled but elegant, like it had been placed that way deliberately. Her face was pale but striking, high cheekbones, sharp eyes, lips set in a line. "You're Jack?" "Yeah," he said, holding up his ID badge. "Mercer Electric." "Come in." He stepped inside, blinking. The air was warm and scented with something subtle. Lavender, maybe. Jasmine, the kind of scent you didn't buy in grocery stores. The floor was marble, not tile. Real, gleaming, cold marble. She walked ahead of him, her steps quick and quiet, voice calm as she spoke. The lights in the west wing are flickering. We lost full power to 2 bedrooms and the hallway. My niece is staying here. She's 6. She's been through a lot, and the dark scares her. He nodded. Got a 6-year-old myself, Ellie. She hates when the lights flicker. Carries around a little flashlight like it's a magic wand. Olivia looked over her shoulder briefly. Something in her eyes shifted, just a touch. Breaker box is in the basement, she said. This way. He followed her down a corridor, lined with paintings. Not just art, but real art. Heavy frames, some modern, others portraits of long-dead people in uniform. The hallway echoed with each of their footsteps. A clock somewhere chimed softly. In a nearby room, he caught a glimpse of a little girl curled on a velvet couch. Her hair was dark and curly, her face half buried in a lion-shaped plush toy. A white noise machine purred beside her. "My niece," Olivia said, her voice lower now. "She hasn't slept well in months." He said nothing, but his chest tightened slightly. At the basement door she paused. "Watch your step. The light down there isn't great." He descended into the darkness, flashlight gripped between his teeth, the stale air brushing against his skin. The breaker box was old but sophisticated, upgraded wiring but poorly maintained. The insulation around one of the major wires had worn down. Sparks, possibly. At the very least, dangerous flickering. It took nearly 40 minutes to trace the circuit and isolate the issue. When he came back up, sweaty and smudged, Olivia was waiting with a glass of water. He took it without a word and drank. "You do good work," she said. "Thanks. You always work this late?" "Whenever they'll let me." "Must be hard, raising a child and working through the night." He shrugged. "You get used to it." She walked toward the kitchen and he followed out of instinct. The kitchen looked like something out of a magazine. Clean lines, brass handles, an enormous stove he'd never use in a lifetime. She poured herself a glass of water and leaned against the counter. "I wasn't always here," she said suddenly. He didn't reply. "I grew up on the south side. My dad fixed things. Like you, my mom cleaned houses. I got into business school on a scholarship, met a man. Got married. It didn't last." Jack raised his eyebrows. "He leave?" "Died. Pancreatic cancer. 3 years ago." Silence. He swallowed. "My wife, breast cancer. Same year." They stood like that, 2 strangers in a warm kitchen at 3 a.m., broken in different ways, both trying to keep going. Then she looked at him, really looked. "You shouldn't have to work all night." He gave a short laugh. "Tell that to my landlord." She set her glass down and leaned closer, and then she said it, low and simple. "What if I offered you a full-time position? Here, on my property, you and your daughter, a place to live." "Good. Salary? Normal hours?" He stared at her. "I'm not looking for charity," he said slowly. "I'm not offering it," she replied. "I need someone I can trust, someone who shows up, and you did, in the middle of the night. That says something." He looked away. "I'll think about it." "You should." He nodded, grabbed his bag and let himself out. The drive home was quiet. Dawn was just breaking over the horizon when he pulled into the lot behind his apartment. The light inside was golden, slanting through the blinds. Ellie was still asleep when he stepped in. He stood in the doorway of her room and watched her for a long time, thinking about lights that stay on, thinking about second chances, thinking about how sometimes a whisper changes everything.